Hello everyone, I'm back again. Someone had asked me to show how I do fiberglass, so I'm going to do it quickly here. So what I'm going to do is fiberglass in that area that is duct tape and cardboard. So what I did was I covered this sprayed it with PVA. There's the PVA there. I tried to spray it with the one coat, the heavy stuff. It would not go through the sprayer at all. This is the sprayer I've been using. So I dumped it out and used the green stuff instead. It went through. It's cold, so maybe that was part of it. I don't know. I'll experiment later, but just wanted to let you know. In hindsight, I would have brushed it with the one coat. I would have used a paintbrush. Because I don't really care about the inside surface of this, I'm actually going to use the outside surface. Anyway, so there's the area that I have. It's nothing but duct tape and cardboard and blue tape and whatever it took to get it. There's some clear tape on there too. Again, in hindsight, I probably would have put the clear tape all over it instead of using the PVA, but I'm trying to do this as quickly as possible. The reason why is because it's cold out here and rain's expected in a couple of hours, and it takes a couple of hours for the fiberglass to get hard enough that rain's not going to affect it. I am going to cover it, but anyway, so I'm rushing to do this. I would normally take a lot more time. What I did was I took a piece of fiberglass cloth. You can buy this. I get it at Walmart or wherever, it doesn't matter. It's just plain old fiberglass cloth. I cut it to the shape that I needed, and then I taped it. Just use plain old masking tape. You can use anything. It's taped outside of the area that I care about, okay? Because if you put fiberglass on masking tape, it basically bonds the masking tape to the fiberglass, but it doesn't bond it very well. It does a very poor job of bonding it, so you end up with a bad spot basically. So I try to avoid doing that whenever I can. Let's see what else. I think that's it. All right. So I've been doing this long enough that I've got all this down. Here is I use these cottage cheese containers, but any kind of container like this. The reason I use it is because the fiberglass doesn't stick to it. I used to use metal cans, you know, like vegetable cans or whatever, but you get one use out of it and then it's shot. This, after the fiberglass cures, you can break it out and it separates. It does not stick to the container. So I get to reuse the containers. It used to be I had a box full of nothing but old, you know, pork and bean cans, green beans, peas, whatever. I would save all those cans. Got tired of those being around, so now I only have a couple of these. When these get too bad, I throw them away. All right, so my mixture is, I use this Bondo stuff again. I get it at Walmart, Home Depot, wherever. It's about 40 bucks a gallon. Not quite a gallon, 9/10. Some people complain about that. You can get it cheaper bulk, but this works for me, and I'm not that money conscious on this. I'm trying to do speed over money. So okay, so then I went to Dollar Tree and I got a whole bunch of these. I have little measuring cups and measuring spoons. I know from experience that it takes one teaspoon of hardener to a cup of resin. What I've done is I poured out a gallon of resin into a measuring cup. Then I poured it into the cottage cheese container, and then I took a Sharpie and I marked the line. I also went in there and put 1 TSP MEKP to that much. So I pour the resin into the line, got the 1 TSP. This is the MEKP, the hardener. So I go ahead, squirt it in here. Now today it is very cool, so I could get away with putting a little more hardener in than normal. In the middle of summer, you probably want to put a little less because it hardens pretty quick. So I'm actually purposely putting a little more. Okay, but it does harden in about 15 minutes, so you have to learn to work quickly, or you throw away a lot of material. Okay, so once I've done that, again, $1.25 now at Dollar Tree. You've got to mix this good. When you mix it, make sure you go around the edge like this and then go towards the center. Otherwise, the stuff that's on the edge doesn't get any hardener in, and you'll end up with soft spots. So obviously don't want that to happen. All right. Well, there's a FedEx guy. I might get him coming by, so might not. My neighbor gets about as much stuff from them as I do, so half the time it's for him. Okay, so once you get it mixed real well, and again, you want to watch out. You want to get it mixed as good as possible, but if you take too long mixing it, it's going to get hard on you. Okay. From experience, I knew this would take about a cup, so I went ahead and mixed a cup. Probably doesn't take quite a cup, but I did it anyway because, again, I'm in a hurry. Okay, now when I put this on here, you can see that it curves in right here. Well, I need this cloth to curve in and stay. The PVA was tacky. It's still a little bit tacky right now. So when I first tried it, the cloth stuck to it real well. But now that the PVA is dry, there's no tackiness whatsoever to this. I can put my finger on it. The way you get around that is you put a layer of fiberglass resin onto whatever you're trying to attach to. Oh, so it was my neighbor's, not mine. All right. Again, you want to work quickly because this stuff, as we're talking, it's hardening. And it'll get to a certain point where it turns into gel and you can't use it. It clumps up and you actually end up spending more time fixing the damage from trying to use it than if you just threw it away. Again, I've learned from experience. Okay. I don't have to be careful about this. I just have to get it on because it's going to get covered. So it just needs one thing. It needs something so it's tacky, so the cloth will stick. And then the other thing is this helps with air bubbles. The worst thing you can get, or one of the worst things you can get, is air bubbles when you're doing this, because they make the fiberglass weak, and basically it's a bad job. So by putting this down, you don't have to be as careful working the fiberglass afterwards to work out all the air bubbles. This takes care of some of them. Okay. The other thing is, you notice as I do this, I'm getting sloppy and getting some on the ground. Doesn't matter here, but if you're doing this in your driveway, you might want to be a little more careful because your driveway ends up with fiberglass resin all over it. I should have taped up my wheel or covered up my wheel, because now I can see it's dripping and it's trying to get on my wheel. If I get it on my wheel, I will quickly clean it up, but it would be better if I didn't get it on in the first place. Okay. If I cared about this, I wouldn't want that fiberglass resin getting on my paint, but I am probably going to end up having a lot of this repainted, so it's not a big deal. If I weren't in a hurry, I would have taped that with, say, the clear tape. Clear tape is simply the shipping tape. Okay, and I would have covered that, so then it wouldn't matter. Okay, so I don't know if you could see it, but when you look at this, it's like a glassy surface because I've got a layer of fiberglass resin all over everything. Okay, I can be sloppy because, again, the cloth is going to absorb all the excess. Okay, so the key is to get it down on there. All right, got it down on there. If you look, I've used about half of the resin, which makes sense because half will go underneath, half will go on top. Then I take this and fold it over. Notice I marked where the tape is. If I ever had to pull this off, then I could get it back on. And I marked where this edge is, because once you put this cloth down, you can work it around a little bit, but not a lot. It tends to want to stay exactly where you put it. So what I'm going to do now is put fiberglass on top and push it down against. What you're looking for is air bubbles. You don't want air bubbles. Air bubbles would be like that, where it's lighter colored. So you just keep on working it. You don't want to brush it. You actually want to dab it on like this. That way you get more on. If you brush it, it tends to thin it out every time you stroke it with a brush, and you end up with... Now, I'm not trying to make this perfect. I'm trying to get it close enough So there were two options. One option was to spend a lot of time trying to get this piece perfect so that when I'm done, I don't have to do any finish work on it at all. But like somebody said, it's one piece. Doesn't really matter. It's not worth spending a whole lot of time making it perfect because it's a one-off shot. So if I have to spend a little more time doing some finish work on this, that's okay. If I was making multiples or making a mold, I would want this to be as close to perfect as I can possibly get it. Okay. So this is the inner fender lip. I want it to be solid enough. I figure I might have to put some tape to hold this. That's fine. When you're doing things that are upside down, go ahead and have a plan B for what are you going to do if it doesn't stick and it starts sagging. That's happened to me in the past. Luckily, this is small enough that that's not happening. But like I said, it's happened to me in the past, and the part came out really, really poorly because of that. Okay. This is where those lines that I made a line over here at the edge. That's where they come in, because that way I know there's excess material right there. You can see the white means there's air pockets. Obviously there's going to be air pockets here because there's no cardboard there. I pulled that out because it made a step. Let's see if I can find the piece. Here it is. This used to be here. It made a step right there. I would have had to fix that step later. I decided I would rather fix this little not so smooth area than to have to get rid of a step. So you can see the air pockets there by lighter color. What I do is I work it out. The reason I put the lines on here is I could work this down, I could work it forward, I could work it back. So I need the lines to say, oh, well, there's an air pocket and there's the line it's supposed to line with. So if I'm going to pull it any direction, I'm going to pull it so that the line lines up. Same way here. I made the line here. You can see that this is already, could go a little bit further back. So that means this material, most of it needs to come forward to fill in this area over here. So again, I'm slowly working it as I'm adding more resin, smoothing it out. This reminds me of that painter guy, I forget his name, with the one with the afro, and he sits there and paints and talks while he, kind of reminds me of that. Okay. Now, I'm having a little bit of a challenge here because when I dab it, then I pull it away, the cloth wants to come with it. If I put a whole bunch of resin on there, that helps minimize that. Doesn't eliminate, but it helps minimize it. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is to get this piece down and all of the air bubbles out if I can. It's not a critical deal. If the bottom piece was perfect, then I want to get every single air bubble out of here. But in this case, that's not critical. There's a spot right there that I see that, there we go. It was light colored. I could see it was light colored. All right. So that PVA that I put on prevents, puts a layer of a film down. So it keeps this fiberglass from sticking to what's underneath. So that's why I'm not worried about getting some fiberglass resin on this, because there's a layer of PVA, so it won't stick to that fiberglass piece, to the body. Okay, I have used enough resin, got enough air bubbles out, got it looking close enough. Again, I'm not trying to get it perfect. Okay. I have extra resin. Okay. So now what I can do is, like I said, keep on working where the air bubbles might be. Some of the light spots are air bubbles, some aren't. But you can see that it's smoothing out rather well. I'm going to be pretty happy with this. Again, one of the other things I'm trying to do is minimize the amount of time I'm going to have to spend on finished body work. So the better this looks right now, the better it's going to be, the less work I'm going to have to do later. Okay, so one of the things about fiberglass is it's okay putting it down. You hear about fiberglass itching. It doesn't itch if you put it down. What itches is when you sand it or file it or do anything to it, it breaks up into little bitty glass splinters. Those splinters are what make you itch. So as long as you're not sanding on it or grinding on it or anything like that, this stuff is really easy to work with. So what I'm trying to do is minimize the amount of that finish work I have to do, and it eliminates or minimizes the unpleasantness of working with fiberglass. Now, if I was really picky, I doubt you can see it because of the angle, there's an extra piece of fiberglass down here. I would come in and cut it, but anytime you use scissors to cut it, and then you ever use it with mat again, the mat just sticks to the scissors and you occasionally have to clean all these off. This is way past due to be cleaned off, okay? Because it's cold, this is still liquid. If we were working in any warmer temperature, this would have turned to gel by now, and it would be absolutely worth this. It would be hardened down in here. Might not be hard, but it would be like hard gelatin. And then when I tried to brush it on, it would clump up, and later on I'd have to sand all those clumps out. So, like I said, I'm getting extra time today just because it is so cold. And it is, it's 51 degrees or something like that, 46, I don't know. And the humidity's high as well. Because, again, it's going to rain in a couple hours. All right. So I am literally just using up this extra resin just because might as well be on here. The other reason I'm doing this is because, like I said, when you sand on it, it's the fibers that cause the problem. If I have thick resin on here and I need to sand, if I have extra resin on, the first couple, let's say thousandths of an inch or tenths of an inch, not tenths, but hundredths of an inch, there we go, that I sand, I'm going to be sanding resin. Resin doesn't make the little fibers. It's only when you get down to the fiberglass cloth that you have the fibers. So I will be able to do some minor sanding on this without having it make me itch. So if I can get enough resin on here, I could conceivably get this surface flat and not expose any fiberglass cloth and not itch. That's idealistic. It doesn't happen most times, but I have found that by doing this on purpose, by putting excess resin on purpose, that does help. The disadvantage of using excess resin is that it makes it heavier. Resin's heavy, the cloth is really light. If you get the right mixture between cloth and resin, it makes the strongest and lightest material it could possibly make. If you don't get enough resin in there, it won't be as stiff. It'll be really flexible. If you put extra, it makes it really stiff, but it also makes it really heavy, and it comes out really hard. I've done it on purpose in some cases. It is amazing when you get the part and you see how much heavier one is when you put heavy resin. It does make a huge difference. I'm not here to get the lightest thing for this car. Now, when I do it for a real car, this is my car, so I don't care. I don't care if it's a little heavy, but customers might. So when I get to a production type system, I will do that. Okay, I have used all of the resin. If you want to get the last little bit, just take it along the edge there, come back and get it, and then put it down. It's dark. It is hard for me to see. The camera, luckily these cameras now do really good job of filming in the dark or taking pictures in the dark. So to you, it doesn't look nearly as dark as it does to me. Okay, and again, I'm just using up the resin because it's here. There's no particular place. If I get over here and look here, I can see it looks pretty good. It's wavy. It's always going to be wavy. If I cared about that, I could put another layer of cloth on top of this and then use a roller or a body squeegee to get it smoother. In this case, I just want, if I can get it close to the right shape, even if it's wavy, that's fine with me. I can put skim coats of body filler on here and smooth it out. Or I can do like I'm doing now. I am literally brushing every place where I see the waves. I'm brushing, and as I brush, I can see that it is smoothing it out. It is putting some brush marks in there. I could use a higher quality brush, but I go through these brushes so much that I end up paying, I buy them in bulk, and I think I pay 36 cents a piece for them. If you buy them at Home Depot, they're like $1 a piece or close to that. So I just use the cheap brushes and put up with the fact that the finish isn't quite as good. If you paid a couple dollars for a brush, it would get a smoother coat, but you're going to go through a lot of brushes and spend a lot of money. Okay. And again, all I'm doing here is just trying to get a little bit smoother so that I have to do less body work. There you go. Now, some of these ripples also could be because I use cardboard underneath. And if you look at cardboard, it has little ripples in it. So some of these ripples could be because of the cardboard. If I would have used, I really wanted to get some construction paper, some of that heavy duty stuff. Didn't have any. I was at Dollar Tree today and should have bought that, forgot. So, but I already had this done. Okay. All right, it's less than perfect, but it's pretty darn good. It actually came out better than I expected. All right, I have fiberglass on my hands, sucks. Alcohol will help with the fiberglass as long as it's not cured. Even better is the sanitizer, because it has alcohol and it's kind of gel, so it stays on your hands a little bit longer before it evaporates. Alcohol evaporates immediately. So it takes a little more work to get it off. All right, now that I've done this, I don't know what you can see. There we go. All right, so from behind the camera, I can see it's really dark here, but from behind the camera, it looks like it's somewhat light. Okay, so if I look at it, I'm looking at it right now, you can see that white area there. That's where there's air behind it. But again, there's air behind it because there's nothing behind that part. So that's fine. Let's see. So you can see that it doesn't look that bad. Okay, like I said, I wasn't expecting real good results. I was going to go through a lot of work, but in this case, it actually did a decent job by not going through all that work, which again, I'm somewhat surprised, but I'm definitely pleased. Okay. What I thought I might have to do is, you have to excuse my camera work. In this area right in here, there's a depression. I thought I might have to take a ball, and once I got this in here, take the ball, push it in there, maybe wedge it with a piece of wood or something to get it to go in. But I think it's probably good enough the way it is. Okay. So we'll know more tomorrow. But just from the way it looks now, I think if I just can get that sanded and smooth, it's going to look pretty good. All right. Well, that's all I had. And like I said, somebody wanted me to show how to do that, so I did. If I was doing any more, I would add a layer of fiberglass mat. Fiberglass mat's a lot thicker, and you add more resin to it, and it gives it more strength. But it tends to have a very rough surface. If you've ever seen the back side of a fiberglass piece, how it looks kind of rough and you can see the fibers there, that's what it does. I don't like that. So then I would put another thin layer of the fiberglass cloth on top. Then I would use a squeegee, like for body work, run over that, and I would end up with a surface finish that is a somewhat smoothed out version of the surface of this cloth. So you can see this cloth, obviously there's fibers in the cloth, so it has a certain surface texture. As you put the resin on there, especially if you put heavy resin on, and then you run the squeegee across, you fill in the little depressions in between the fiber strands, and you get it smoother than the cloth by itself. Now you don't get it glass smooth or anything like that. If we can see, this one over here came out exceptionally well. You won't always get results this good, but this one right here is one where I did exactly that. I put down the cloth and then I put a little bit heavy resin, and then I put a squeegee over it, and it's a somewhat smooth surface, but not absolutely smooth. I don't know if changing the angle makes it better, but the advantage of this is I could go over it real quickly with a thin layer of body filler and literally sand it, and it would smooth. It would only take like a skim layer of body filler to fill this up, which I will have to do in the future. This is this side. To remind you, this is the passenger side. This did look like that until I did all the work to fill it in. There was a step right here, just like there is over there. I filled that in with cloth and mat. Did the same thing, put down cloth to cover the gap, put down mat to fill the depression, and then put cloth down on top of that to smooth it out as good as possible. And then from there, I put several layers of body filler on and sanded it down. Okay, what else do we have? So let's see what else. So I'll give you an idea. So if I look at this, there's a step right there, hard to see, and a gap. So what I did was I put cloth across here to level this out a little bit. Then I put mat on top of it, and then we'll put another layer of cloth on top of that. Okay, and this area right here I'll have to fix. You can see what I did on the other side to fix that. The actual mold kicks up here. I need it to do not quite this much. So if you come over here, you'll see what I did. And this is one of those things I figured out on the fly. Okay, so I decided I would make it curve, where are we at? Like this. So you can see it curves in right here instead of kicking up, because in the C2, the door actually stops there. In this case, it goes in more here. So I had to figure out what to do. So I said, well, you know what? Right where it kicks up, I'm going to cut it off and I'm going to blend it in. Also, if you look from the front, that's where that eyebrow starts. So once I get this door molded in, it's not molded in yet. Once I get it molded in, I'm going to stand back and figure out where the edges of the eyebrow are. I'm going to fix that. The other thing is this sticks up higher than the deck lid, and the trunk opening and the hatch opening are right there. So there has to be a seam right here. That means I have to put a piece here that's going to come vertically and then finish this eyebrow. The eyebrow actually is back here. You can see part of it right there and part of it over here. So I'm going to continue that and make that eyebrow come out, get wide here, and then come back in as it comes down. And it needs to meet where this eyebrow is on the door. All right, that's where we're at now. It's taking shape. Not a whole lot left to do on this side to finish it up. I do have a hood that I made, but it came out very poorly. So it's gonna take a lot of fixing, but it will be something to put on there. The other thing is it's a flat hood and it has these flat areas. They call it kind of the floor mat hood. I really want to use the Stinger hood. The Stinger hood is the one that sticks up from it. Stinger hood actually looks just like this. That's a Stinger hood. On the C2s, this is a C1. On the C2s, the peak of the hood comes out from the middle of this Stinger hood. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Right here is that peak. So this peak starts here, continues on, and then the Stinger hood surrounds it right here. So I'm going to add that Stinger hood. I will probably make a mold off of that one since I already have it. The Stinger hoods are rather expensive, so I can make a mold off of that one and still the center section. So if you look, this is the whole hood right here. So I could actually make a copy of this hood and then cut it out right here where that center section comes to a peak. So I can literally steal this hood. I need to fix it at the same time. You can see the edges aren't so great. Anyway, that's where we're at. And I hope everyone has a great day. Like and subscribe. And I will see you next time. Bye.